This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, the votes are in and counted, winners have been declared, and somewhere, someone is making plans to visit Iowa next week to set up their 2016 run. Oh, and we'll explore what the election means to agriculture next on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. I apologize for my cold. So I was on social media Tuesday night, and oh, by the way, we're going to be on Twitter now. I'll tell you about that later. Anyway, I was on social media Tuesday night, and some of my friends were cheering, and some of my friends were, well, let's face it, they were crying, and some of my former students were just thrilled in the results in Colorado. Look it up. But one of the best pieces of advice I saw the Tuesday night and from the rest of the week was from my much too young to be this wise friend, Kate Pleasant, who said, let's accept the situation and find a way to do what we can to help move the country forward. Anger never fixed anything. So in that light, I thought we would talk to a couple of people who closely follow the political landscape and find out what they think is going to happen now. First, I talked to Eastern Illinois University political science professor Richard Wadling on how Tuesday's election might have helped us move us closer to all of our goals. Joining me today is Richard Wadling. He is a professor of political science at Eastern Illinois University. And Richard, is there anything we've learned from the election?
Well, certainly we've learned that the Republican Party has some work to do in terms of its basic demographics and how it's focused so exclusively or so strongly on one particular part of the demographic.
That would be white males.
That would be older white voters.
So the demographic switch, and I heard commentators on Fox this week talking about how this isn't representative of America. Well, unfortunately, it is representative of America, isn't it?
Yes. Again,
maybe not unfortunately, excuse me, but yeah.
Well, yeah, we have been talking about the changing demography of the United States now for at least a couple of decades, and the changing demographics are starting. The first wave is hitting the United States, and the Democratic Party, at least at the presidential level, was much more successful in navigating that change. And so there's going to have to be some reckoning that the Republican Party is going to have to deal with.
But this has happened before with the Irish and the other Germans and other groups have come over, populated an area and got involved in politics to build themselves up, right?
Yeah, certainly. For example, the New Deal coalition that formed in the 1930s was a wide sweeping coalition that the Democratic Party put together and was able to sustain really for decades, for that matter. Yes, society does change.
Right. So in the presidential campaign, the issues were, you know, class, obviously tax, obviously the economy. What issues do you see the president really attacking that he can attack this term?
Well, I mean, certainly President Obama and the Congress have to take on the economy. We have been experiencing incremental improvements, but incremental improvements are really not adequate, and that's certainly not what the voting public is expecting. So the public is expecting at least some sort of action, so we need some bolder steps. The tax system, we have a significant imbalance or mismatch between incoming revenues and spending needs. So that's going to mean that there needs to be some serious effort at looking at a whole range of subjects such as tax rates, fairness of tax burdens, tax expenditures.
Right. And I think really most of the American public just wants their taxes to be fair. Now, you know, if you pay less, that's always fair than if somebody else pays more. But really, don't you think that the whole issue of fairness in the tax code is something that they're going to try to work through?
I would hope so. I mean, certainly public opinion polls have shown that there is an underlying sentiment out there that there's something is out of balance with respect to fairness in our tax code.
Okay.
Now, can President Obama work with the Congress on this? That's a different matter.
That's the $64,000 question. Okay, Democrats held on to the Senate. They've actually increased their seats a couple. The Republicans lost a couple of seats, but still have a safe majority in the House. Mm-hmm. How does this change the dynamic as far as working to solve the problems we all want to get worked on?
Well, on the face of it, the dynamic looks fairly similar to what it's been.
Welcome. Say hi to the new boss, same as the old boss, right?
On the other hand, President Obama clearly now is not going to be just a one-term president, mm-hmm. so he is going to be able to claim some sort of mandate. That's going to be to his benefit in working with the Congress. And certainly the leadership, the Republican leadership of the House of Representatives is going to have to give some serious thought to the perceptions of public opinion mm-hmm. perceptions of the mm-hmm. Congress. And in the long run, being obstinate and not willing to negotiate is not going to work for them. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to produce something. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, of course, that means that the Senate Democrats are going to have to be willing to work with Republicans. Mm-hmm. So really, both parties, the Democrats and Republicans, are going to have to work together. And
give a little here, give a little there, but get things done.
Yes, I mean, polarization is a problem in our system, particularly whether it's ideological polarization or partisan polarization. There is growing sentiment that regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, mm-hmm. liberal, conservative, mm-hmm. that we all need to be adults and we're going to have to work together. And some compromising is going to have to happen. Compromising is not a dirty word.
From your lips.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go to the state level. Illinois had some gerrymandering in districts. And yes. really for the first time in my memory, we had a campaign that was really fought on television with outside dollars, the Gil Davis campaign.
Yes.
Do you see that happening more? Do you see that as once the power of incumbency takes effect, that seat will become a safe Republican seat, and you have your northern Democratic seats and your southern Republican seats in Illinois, and life will go on as normal?
Well, I think it's going to depend on the district. Certainly, Congressman Shimkus for this district definitely is in the driver's seat to be able to take advantage of incumbency.
Right.
It is designed to be a Republican, conservative-oriented district. It's not that likely that he's going to be able to face some really significant Democratic challenger, assuming that, he doesn't say anything particularly untoward or obnoxious, as long as he plays it safe, and he's in pretty good shape.
Todd Atkins.
Yes, okay. Or the Republican Senator candidate from Indiana, who found out the hard way about why it's important to be careful about what you say. Now, the district to the north of us, the district that apparently it looks like Rodney Davis is going to win, that district really is designed to be primarily a Democratic district, or at least a toss-up type district. So a lot of it's going to depend on what type of Congress member he is over the upcoming 2 years.
Right. Tim Johnson resigned after the primary. Was
yes.
that to set up, just between us, is that to set up the Republican power to set up Davis for the run?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to give Congressman Johnson the benefit of the doubt that he genuinely decided it was time for him to go and that there wasn't some ulterior motive involved there. Because, I mean, he really took a beating afterwards, and I think he's smart enough of a politician to know that that would have happened. So I don't know necessarily that he would have done that as part of a rational political strategy.
Yeah. Well, I hope he enjoys his retirement. He's earned it. State House and our state legislature.
Yes.
Okay? As far as I can tell, nothing's changed.
As far but the House and the Senate.
House and the Senate. And,
yes. Yeah,
okay.
The Democrats continue to be in control. Yes.
Okay. Did they get? I mean, did they get the message that we'd like to see something happen in a positive mode? Were they waiting for the election to be over? Are they waiting for the lame duck period, or what?
Well, I would hope so.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess to me, the message that might be out there most clearly would be the constitutional amendment and how they were hit from both the liberal end and the conservative end. And you have Chicago Tribune actually saying you should vote no on it, even though they've been leading the charge on calling for some form of pension reform. And so at least the message there is that if you're going to do something, you need to just be upfront about doing it, because it seemed like they were trying to be way too clever.
I still
in
don't
crafting
understand what that amendment said, and I read it 3 or 4 times. And
I just had that conversation with my 21-year-old daughter yesterday, and she said she read it multiple times, just trying to figure out what it really
the best
meant.
Political minds in the state were used to design that question.
Yes.
Okay. Very quickly, on the national level, we got to get a farm bill passed. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money that the teabaggers would like to slice out for defense purposes, food stamps, assistance program.
Yes.
Do you see that possibly moving forward in the lame duck period? They will have to deal with other financial issues during that period of time.
Well, on the plus side, if there is going to be any progress, that would be the time to do it. I mean, certainly there is, as we all know, things got held up in the House of Representatives, and it was kind of a poster child example of the legacy of polarization between Democrats and Republicans.
Right.
So that would be the opportunity to get something done. On the downside, of course, there are some other major things going on, such as what everyone now knows of as the fiscal cliff, and the upcoming sequestration process. That is going to get a lot of attention.
It just amazes me. If you put something in as a threat, there is always a chance you'll have to deal with that threat later on.
Yes, and again, this is not the first time that this has happened. There was an effort back in the 1980s, specifically Grand Rubin Hollings, to impose automatic deficit reduction cuts. And Congress, when it came down to it, didn't really like it. And that's what we're facing right now, is we're facing automatic cuts, but actually ones that are far more severe than back in the 1980s.
And without reason.
For
without
both
thought.
The defense budget and also a variety of discretionary domestic programs.
Well, Richard, thank you for coming and trying to make sense out of this. As a caveat, he is now a TV pundit, and we all know how good TV pundits are. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well, we've heard from the ivory tower. Now it's from the trenches, or I should say the furrows. It's Adam Nielsen of the Illinois Farm Bureau. Adam, you can actually talk to the people in the houses of power, particularly about Illinois issues and farms. What's your take on the election outcomes, and what can we potentially see in the next couple weeks, next 6 months?
Yeah. Well, Fred, good to talk to you again. I think some people in agriculture right now are stunned, just like others. You're led to believe that maybe President Obama would win the Electoral College but lose the popular vote, and it was very clear that the Democrats' ground game was very, very effective, just as it was in 2008. So that's one big takeaway from the election. I think a lot of people's disregarded all of the millions of dollars that was spent by the super PACs. That was evident too. I can't imagine those millions of dollars bought many votes in the end. So maybe we'll see some reconsideration of those dollars in the future. Nothing like going out and just going door to door and talking to your neighbors and getting them to the polls versus having somebody come at you with 30-second spot after 30-second spot over a period of time until you're numb.
My neighbor suggested it'd been better had they gone around passing out $100 bills.
That's right, exactly. So anyway, just a couple of the takeaways. Yes, President Obama, another 4 years, and definitely has been somebody that has been supportive of renewable fuels. I'm going to look for his EPA here in the coming days to decline the waiver of the renewable fuel standard. I think from a farm policy standpoint, it's always hard to say what a lame duck session of Congress will do, but we will be making one last attempt here in the next week to call attention to Congress the need to get a 5-year farm bill passed. We're coming off the worst drought in generations. Farmers need certainty. Their lenders need certainty. We saw the value of crop insurance. It's been improved in both the Senate passed version and the House proposal. And so, we want to keep those improvements in the program and don't subject crop insurance to months more criticism from people who don't understand the program. They don't understand that farmers write big checks every year on premiums, and in most years don't collect a dime in indemnities. And the program, is a very efficient use of taxpayer dollars. Unfortunately, not everybody understands that, and there's still a little bit of criticism these days of it and other farm programs. So there are just enough people out there, Fred, who out in D.C., both with on the left side of the political spectrum and on the very right side of the political spectrum, who are always suspicious of farm programs in general and have taken upon themselves to critique crop insurance, again, from a perspective that we really don't understand. So we really want to see something done here in the lame duck session. But you got a lot of people who are going to be going back, defeated or retiring. So we don't know what the level of motivation is going to be to do a farm bill, let alone deal with the fiscal cliff, which has to be addressed here before the end of the year in some fashion. So we'll be calling Congress. We've heard a little bit about a possible extension of the farm bill.
Right.
In March of next year, the Congressional Budget Office will come out with a new baseline for spending for the next 10 years, and we anticipate that will go down. So if a new farm bill is written next year by new House and Senate Agriculture Committees, they'll have fewer dollars to work with. The election, the president got 3 trade agreements passed at the end of 2011. Of course, those had been negotiated 5 years before. It took a little bit longer than we had hoped to get them to the finish line. We hope that the president stays ambitious on the trade front with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, possibly opening up some opportunities for Illinois agricultural products in South America and Asia. So that's an area that we are hopeful we will see some resolution. There are a lot of ag employers out there who have been trying to work with the H-2A visa system, and it's not working for them. A lot of undocumented workers are working in agriculture. The E-Verify systems that have been used by some states have really put a hurt on farmers in those states. At the time that they're trying to harvest their crop, they don't have the labor now. And so that is a major issue in agriculture. We're hoping with President Obama, he will want to address that as part of an immigration package. And we will be putting out a proposal. The American Farm Bureau has been working with other groups that have been working on this issue for years, trying to iron out differences, trying to come up with a program that everybody can support, that would change the status of people, give them an ag card to be able to work in the seasonal area, and then also give be able to transition into a longer-term visa where individuals would have to go back to the home country to touch base with their communities every year or so, and then those folks would be able to work on dairy farms and livestock farms for which need help year round. So we're hoping that we'll be able to address that in a second Obama administration. The estate tax is an area where I think we differ with the president. I know that he would like to see a $3.5 million personal exemption and a 45% rate. We would like to keep the estate tax provisions the same where they're at today, $5 million tied to with the index to inflation and a 35% rate. Farmers have to have the ability to transfer those assets that they've been paying taxes on and they've been accumulating over the years to the next generation, without having to break up the farm or sell off portions of their assets to pay off the estate. And $5 million is a fair number, especially in Illinois now. The price of farmland has tripled. Since 2000, we're at about $6,800, $6,900 per acre on average now, compared to just 12 years ago, the average price was around $2,300. So we need to see an increase in that exemption. That's going to be an issue that will probably be addressed as part of the fiscal cliff and that whole series of tax and spending decisions that will need to be made.
Well, in order to back away from that fiscal cliff, it's obvious that there's going to have to be compromises on all sides. What is the Farm Bureau thinking? Is there going to be more compromise? Will this Congress be agreeable to working with the president?
I think maybe Speaker Boehner said it the best when he suggested that the mandate is for leadership, to be exercised by all parties involved. And I don't want to hear we can't do this because until after the 2014 election for a long time, because that's what we've been hearing now for the last year. Very little has been accomplished in the last year out in Washington. Everything has been riding on this election. Okay, the election's over. Start solving the problems. And it's not just agriculture that wants to see that happen. It's everybody. So we're going to continue to discuss that and discuss the need to be able to resolve these issues. You're elected to solve problems.
Now, one of the issues that indirectly affects farmers in the ag community is a question of infrastructure. The locks and dams are needs in desperate repair. The roads we use to haul grain needs upgrades. How many rural bridges are in trouble? Is there a sense that we'd be able to work on these big problems? Everybody, highway dollars, you want them for your town. Can we prioritize projects across the board?
Well, that waterway piece is very important. The authorizing legislation for it has come up for reauthorization. The Water Resources Development Act, we think that Congress will want to get on that in a hurry, and we're prepared to have that debate. We were able to get a water bill passed in 2007, which called for 7 new locks on the Illinois and Mississippi rivers, and not a single drop of concrete has been poured on any of those projects. It was very disappointing. We recognize the fiscal condition of this country, but if you're going to have aggressive trade strategies, if you want to be involved in job creation, if you want to be able to help regions of the country like ours, heavily dependent upon agricultural exports and inputs, both of them use the river in a very efficient way, taking that traffic off the roads and putting it on the river where it's hardly noticed. We do think it's time for an injection of investment, of tax dollars into getting some locks built. So that will be a high priority for us in this new Congress. We'll have 6 new members of Congress in Illinois to educate. So that'll be another challenge, too. We had 5 new members in 2010, and as of this week, we will have 6 new members when the new Congress gets underway. So I'll have many opportunities to talk about this with these folks.
Adam, get to work. You got a lot to do.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank both Richard Wandling and Adam Nielsen for taking time out of their very full post-election schedule to talk to the original underinformed voter. So on to more frivolous activities. As if you don't have enough ways to waste time, the Four Rivers Ag Report is now officially on Twitter. I'll be posting every day about what's going on here, something interesting I might find in my research for the program, asking you questions about what stories I should pursue, and maybe even posting some video that you just have to see. To follow us, you type in @4RiversAg, no spaces. And for those of you not familiar with Twitter, Twitter is short messages. Thank goodness, right? Without all the drama that Facebook has to offer. You can check it out on computer or better yet on your smartphone. Just download the Twitter app and then just follow us @4RiversAg. I'll try to make it worth your time. So that's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.